We're about halfway through summer, and even though it's scorching hot due to climate change and the like, perhaps this movie about the wackiest mermaid in the world could cool you off a bit. It's called Lou Over the Wall, and it is truly something. With today's movie, I think I now know who I consider to be the big three in Japanese animated movies. At least in my opinion. The first is, of course, Hayao Miyazaki, whose stories are often well crafted and have some breathtaking animation, given the main studio backing them, and are just a joy to watch. Then you have Mamoru Hosoda, who aside from adapting some various properties in film form, has produced original content that often have a unique approach when tackling certain themes, and are often comparable to or even above that of Miyazaki. His animation is a little more freeform, but otherwise fluid and great to watch. And then you have Masaki Uesa, who's like if Hosoda became Tex Avery and started going nuts with his animation and story. Uesa has been active in terms of animation as far back as 1987, and has provided his work for anime series you might recognize, like Crayon Shin-chan, or that one film I reviewed long ago, Cat Soup. But in 1999, he did start going about directing, with Vampire Kids being his first attempt at a short pilot film, and then Mind Game being his first feature-length film. From what I understand, and mostly it's due to today's movie, and this one video by Glass Reflection, the man has a very unique approach to his stories and goes about different styles and techniques that have to be seen to believe. Just from others talking about him, I'm interested to see if many of the films he's produced are on par or even above what joy and insanity that I found with today's movie. And I want to share what I've experienced with this film with the rest of you. Not in my usual play-by-play format, though, because I find this to be a bit too special for that. So, to start off, here's a quick summary of the plot. The story mainly centers around Kai Ashimoto, a middle school student who has a knack for music, but isn't too social due to his current living conditions. However, two fellow classmates who happen to find a video he uploaded online and recognize him, Yuho and Kunio, offer him to join their band, called Siren, where they practice on the mysterious Merfolk Island, said to be where the elusive merfolk live, due to an old legend where they supposedly eat people and stay behind the Shadow Rock. But, on that day he does decide to go along with his new friends, some mysterious being starts taking notice to his music, and when they play their music on that island, the most amazing thing happens. Eventually, he ends up having a closer encounter with the sea creature, with power over water to where it literally floats, and learns directly from her the name of herself, Lou. Lou is, of course, attracted to music and can even turn her tail into human-like legs. Kai eventually introduces her to his new friends, and they all take a liking to her as all she wants to do is make friends with the humans and explore the world around her. While this opens up Kai to where he becomes more social, trouble occurs once the townsfolk become aware of Lou's existence. And from there, it leads to a series of events that involve more merfolk coming from the sea, to the band being used to attract tourists, and something terrible to happen with Lou that involves an old curse set on the town. Most of this will be elaborated or briefly shown as we go, but I'll try to limit how much I want to show you without it being too spoiler heavy. But in case it does, you've been warned. So, let's start by talking about some of the characters. As I mentioned, this is mostly about Kai, voiced by Michael Sinterniclaus in the English dub. He lives with his father and grandfather in Hinashi Town, due to his mother leaving him when he was younger. With how the town runs, there isn't much opportunity for him to enjoy his music hobby since he's on the verge of becoming a high school student. Nothing else seems to really interest him, and he has trouble opening up to others. Even at his age, he's pretty relatable regarding pressure from his family on what he has to do to live, versus what he wants to do and how it goes at odds with everyone around him. He can come off as a little blunt in his honesty.
What did you think, Kai?
There's no emotion behind the singing, and you're straining to reach the high notes.
Maybe it's because I'm concentrating too hard and overthinking my performance.
And also, whenever you start to sing, your bass playing falls behind.
But nonetheless, he means well, but just has trouble getting his true feelings out. Yuasa seems to have a good understanding on what it is a lot of youth go through, or what they could be doing. Hence the use of social media as an outlet for his music early on, and how it affects him and his friends later, given what happens. Speaking of, his friends are pretty likable too. Yuho, voiced by Stephanie Sheh, is the band's main vocalist, and whose father and grandfather run most of the town. She can come off as being a daddy's rich girl, in regards to being a little self-centered.
Can you two not bicker about business in front of my friends? It's super embarrassing.
This mermaid girl person could be the perfect mascot. The town's ambassador, if you will.
What about me?
This band used to be fun. I wish we'd never met you and that you had stayed in Tokyo! I never ever want to see you again! What are you waiting for? Aren't you gonna stop me from leaving?
But she does grow out of it over time, the longer she spends with Kai and the others, to where she becomes rather endearing. If anything, she's the first to learn one of this movie's messages regarding being true to oneself. Then, in terms of least developed character, but still funny to watch, Kunio, voiced by Brandon Ingeman. He's a priest in training, and thus has to keep the fact he's in a band a secret from everyone else. Hence why they practice on Merfolk Island. Out of the three, he's probably the most eccentric to where he could be a bro character, though he never comes off as annoying. Again, he doesn't have as much personal development as Kai or Yuho, but he does drive the plot along a little bit, as he provides the most suggestions for what the band should do in relation to Lou. Because once she does start getting involved with them, he thinks it would be good if she got to meet more people, get in on that fame and fortune.
Don't you think everyone would love Lou if they got to know her?
I think it's a matter of introducing her properly to the town. She's not a threat to anybody.
I don't want Lou to be a part of the band anymore.
I think it's good that you're being protective. But if Lou just wants to be friends with everyone, this could be a great opportunity for her. I mean, everyone online already loves her.
Really, these kids do eventually start making mistakes, which lead to the bad things that happen to Lou later, but they do come together to make things right, and the matter that it gets handled is, what I believe anyway, their way of standing out against other well-known movies like it. Yuasa stated that late in production of this movie, he noticed his story took a lot of inspiration from some of Miyazaki's earlier works, especially Ponyo on the Cliff by the Sea. And you can definitely tell that with how this story involves its title character.
Woo!
Who, me?
Who, me?
No, not who, me. Kai.
No, not who, me, Kai?
No, just Kai. Kai. Kai.
Kai, 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 Kai.
Well, it's not like she's calling out for ham constantly, so she's a bit more endearing. Yeah, similar to Ponyo, Lou is a childlike being with a lot of curiosity for the human world, especially when it comes to music. Yet, she is capable of learning rather quickly. At least she knows when it's fine to talk and knows to remember a person's name. She also handles her powers in a manner that works for the moment. She can use the water to travel around, she can use it to fix some stuff, and she can use it in a playful but meaningful manner. Of course, through her interactions with Kai, we learn more about what merfolk are like. and that direct sunlight can burn them to death if exposed for too long, and that being bitten by them will turn you into one. This does get brought up over time in correlation to certain cases involving either the main story or some side characters, who have been personally affected by merfolk in the past. Kai's grandfather, for instance, lost his mother years ago when one seemingly attacked her, and it heavily affected his viewpoint on them since it looks like she died. Hence why he's often on Kai's case for going near the water. And then, in the case of Granny Octopus, yes, that's her name, and the dub has her voiced by Barbara Goodson, she lost her lover, who may or may not be Lupin III, to the seas, and she of course believes the merfolk are dangerous. And trust me, she does get a few scenes, semi-satisfying conclusion to her story. But it's hard to think that the merfolk are any dangerous when the one we're shown is so cute and adorable. There are a couple times where you might think she might do something that was part of the legends, like drag people to their deaths, as she pulls Kai into the water at one point, when really she just wants to show off the world beneath the waves, and it's done in a colorful manner. And yeah, I do have a lot to say about the animation in this, and how wonderfully varied it is. But anyway, we see and learn a lot from Lu that makes you believe she isn't anything dangerous like others may say. She comes off like the little sister that Kai never had, who he even opens up about his troubled life to briefly. Much as it is in Hosoda or Miyazaki films, many of the problems a character may face is very grounded in reality, but often they get help from someone or something that otherwise isn't normal. Yet it wouldn't be so if Kai was talking to a little girl that he knows or sees as a little sister. But since it's Lu, they just get more creative with having a mermaid child going about doing things she normally wouldn't, and getting Kai to talk more and be more outgoing as a result. She's seemingly the one person he and this town might have needed, for better or for worse. I mean, it's looking like relations between the town and merfolk increase after she does get exposed to the world. And we even get a proper introduction to her father.
Hey, man! We were here first!
Please don't eat me, Mr. Sharkman. Again, he shows that merfolk aren't actually scary once you get to know them. After all, while these two randos were spooked by him, once he started to help them package fish, they just move with it. I do often wonder how much he knows about Lu's involvement with the humans, since he likes what they do in their spare time, and even decides to help with revitalizing the town, but knows that Kai is good enough that he can shake his hand. I mean, assuming it's just that he's a good friend and not a potential boyfriend, despite Kai likely being a bit older than Lu anyway. Still a good dad for not freaking out. Just don't piss him off by hurting his daughter, or else. I wouldn't want to be in his way when he bursts into flames while trying to get his daughter. You know he's serious when he risks being in sunlight like this. And this also ends up relating to another story we learn about the town. They say that once, a merfolk was caught and left to die on top of a mountain. And when they died, the sea rose up to just around the area the Shadowstone was, just to reclaim the body. Care to guess what ends up happening? Well, no one dies, but Lu and her father get encased by Yuho's father to where this triggers the curse that befell the town. So slowly but surely, the water is going to rise up, but only where the Shadowstone casts its shadow in. The way that this all gets resolved is one I won't show, but I do want to at least show how the townsfolk get helped over time.
Nice and slow.
Just in time.
No, no, no. Grandma, where are you?
No need to worry, my dear. I'm in very good hands.
They're not gonna eat us, right?
What ends up happening by the end is everyone starts accepting that in order to be happy, they should be true to themselves and let others be able to do the same thing. Not to mention, try to see the truth for what it is and not be stuck in the past. Really live your life and improve yourself and others around you. Things will all get brighter for you, and no matter what, you won't be apart from the ones you love. But it isn't just words that get the point across. For like others, Yuasa has a unique way of grabbing your attention to what's on screen. And if it isn't the fact they use merfolk, it's the eye-popping animation. Now, I will admit that when I first saw the trailer, and even the movie on store shelves, I thought perhaps this was another Hosoda movie that I didn't get to see yet. Much like in his movies, the character models use flat colors that give the designs less of a definite appearance, and something that's more freeform, which allows for more varied expressions and fluid animation versus what more detailed designs would normally allow. The backgrounds would still have all that heavy detail that wouldn't clash with these characters, while otherwise, objects that would interact with a character or be affected by something moving would end up matching the art of the characters. However, to my understanding, Yuasa doesn't stick to just one style for character art or even how they act, but he goes all out in using different visual effects to convey the tone for different scenes. When Kai is being taken underwater for the first time, you see him literally become more cartoon-like as he's given air to breathe. Then, in his mind, when he thinks of how to swim or float, they change up the animation style to reflect what he might see in his mind. Another good example is when Grandpa tells his story, and with the flashback, they simplify everything with mostly color and hardly any other details on the characters, which works given the trauma he's had as a boy. But perhaps my favorite instance where the characters become more loose in how they move is during the beach scene where Kai and friends perform by the beach, with Lou hiding in a cooler. And then, once she sees the festival lanterns flying up, she gets excited and starts getting into a groove that not only affects her friends, but everyone!
Look at her go! She's so cute!
Like, all this has actual purpose. It isn't just to show how much variation there is in the animation, but it perfectly embodies the feeling and tone of the situation. And the insanity of it all is what's interesting to me. If experimenting with different styles is what Yuasa is best capable of, then I have to wonder how it fares in his other works. Here's the thing. This was the second film to be released by his own studio, Science Saru, although it was the first to be produced, while Night is Short, Walk on Girl got released first in April 2017, with Lou coming out a month after. Now I don't know if this applies to the other film, or anything else after, but with this, it uses a hybrid form of animation where the keyframes were still hand-drawn, but instead of cleaning up traditionally, they traced and did all the in-betweening of keyframes using Adobe Flash. I mean, it doesn't look it with how everything flows, so that's pretty impressive that they could make a movie in Flash but still mostly look traditional. And really, if that's something that works, then it only makes sense to use it. Many studios take use of Flash animation and are capable of coming up with some amazing material, and Science Saru is no exception. It just goes to show that no matter how it gets animated, when the end result is a colorful and motion-driven experience, backed by a well-written story that fits in with everything that's happening, it's hard to really complain. Sure, there are a few awkward spots where I could nitpick, like some of the ass shots of the movie, but otherwise, I don't have anything I could say that could be an improvement. They knew exactly what they were doing, and it shows. The last thing I want to talk about is the music and voice work. It was mainly composed by Tagatsugu Muramatsu, And when it comes to the performances from Siren, it's mostly upbeat and in line with the zaniness of Lou and the rest of the cast. But of course, most scenes have good scoring to further suit the tone of the moment. Still, it further connects to the interest in music these kids have and how they get to certain points in their band's life. They start out like amateurs, but they get better once Kai becomes more motivated and Lou becomes part of their lives. The life of the band might not be the main focus, but they still go through a lot with it and what effect it has on the audience. The voice acting, as far as the English dub goes, is provided by many you would hear from NYAV Post, though the editing and distributing in this case goes to G-Kids. So you may hear someone you might have heard from a Funimation dub or even a 4Kids dub somewhere in the movie. Hell, even Mike Pollock is in this movie, and I don't often get to hear him much outside of video games or 4Kids works. The performances aren't even that bad in English. Everyone sounds appropriate for the kind of roles they're given, since we're dealing with characters young and old. Of course, they aren't bad in their original language either, though some of the voices I seem to have a liking to the dub more than the original, especially in Lou's case.
Lou, come meet everyone.
Ah. 何願った？
みんな仲良し仲良し
What did you wish for?
Woo! Everyone friend! Everyone friend!
Still, it is nice that they started dubbing Uesa's movies, since so far, the Walk-On Girl movie is only subbed. Having dubs for these movies are a good way to get people interested, especially if they only ever watch Miyazaki or Hosoda films. And it also would give other actors a chance to work on more projects and expand their careers. And I hope they continue with whatever film this studio puts out. It'd be nice for others to see what sort of crazy thing Uesa pulls next, and Lou alone got me to want to see more. And I think that about covers it. I'm sure that I'll come to understand more about Yuasa with each project I come across, and not just films either, but some TV anime too. But this movie left a really good first impression. I was shown zaniness, and I got that. Plus a highly enjoyable fish story about musicians meeting a mermaid and creating music together. With a delightful cast and some creative animation, it's another animated movie that I definitely recommend anyone who loves seeing mermaids and needs some cool music during hot times. Please see this. I doubt you'll be disappointed. I'm the Media Hunter. Media is my prey, and reviewing them my way.